everybody. We're back for another episode of Conversations That Connect Us. And I have a very, very special person today with me, and her name is Crissee or Christina Sims. Hello, dear. How are you?
Hello, Queen. How are you? I'm very well.
I'm good. I just really like talking to you because you call me Queen. That makes me
feel
yes.
You
like regal all the time.
That's my version of hun.
Perfect. I love that. Crissee and I met. We are actually both contributing authors to a book that's coming out in a little less than a month now. I think it's probably the 23rd of September. So just shy of a month. And, in that whole process, we've had an opportunity to get to know each other. And she has an incredible story, is an incredible person. And I wanted to let her come on and let you all get to know her a little bit better, who she is, what she does, and how she's really, truly impacting the world. So we're going to just dive in. Are you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
I got all my questions.
Let's do this.
Well, tell us a little bit more about you. Where are you from? What do you do for a living? All the good stuff.
I am Christina Sims. I am the founder and owner of mommeetslife, which is a personal branding and marketing consultant. See, I am a Pittsburgh native, actually live a little bit south of it, of Jeanette, but in Pennsylvania, you're around the Philly or you're around the Pittsburgh. I'm on the Pittsburgh side. So yes, I am a diehard Steelers fan. So those who are not, sorry, but not sorry. We still got the most rings for now. But I enjoy helping women find and amplify their voice. Through personal branding and marketing, I am able to help women really uncover their message and being able to expand their reach and their impact. I help them become an authority. I help them be able to develop their own thought leadership. In a world that's really full of trends, I help them become a trailblazer so that they're able to find opportunities, build their own success, be able to create wealth, but on their own terms, without feeling like they have to be anybody else.
I love that. And you and I have had a conversation, and I think I probably took more away from that conversation just in a couple things that you said to me that I have probably in 20 years. I mean, you go from having a PR firm who was representing me, but they were representing me. They weren't technically teaching me what I needed to be doing and, how to better tell my story and amplify my voice. And I took all kinds of notes, and I'm like, you know what, there's just going to be, other than the Wonder Woman connection, there are some serious things. So if anybody's listening to what she just said and you need help in that space, you are going to get so much information from her. And I just highly encourage you to reach out to Crissee. But anyway, I digress. But what made you say yes to coming on to my podcast?
Well, first of all, like you said, was our love of Wonder Woman. As she said, we are co-authors in the book. So when we had our group discussions, I had peeped that Wonder Woman chair from a mile away. So I was like, okay, it's a kindred spirit. Then you mentioned your wonderful work with ESPN. As a tomboy, ESPN is on his house all day, every day long. But more importantly, it was your story about how you were able to really take an obstacle and you overcame it. And it's not just any obstacle. And I was just heard, we think about our life circumstances and we always say, why me? And you said, no, this is not going to define me. I'm going to own this and I'm going to still thrive despite the fact that there was a physical capacity. And I've been probably told all my friends, like, this woman was in a hospital bed and still was making things happen. So there's no excuse, none. And so that just inspired me. It's definitely something I aspire to be my own self. And it's just, I had to know you.
Oh, sweet. Well, we talk about obstacles, and I know a very brief little summary about what you went through and with your son and things like that. And, I want you to kind of tell us, what has been the biggest obstacle in your life, and what have you kind of learned from those experiences? What have they taught you? And then, how are you helping other people that may have faced something like that?
Ooh, I've just turned 35 recently, and sometimes it feels like it's a little longer, but I'm grateful for that, because every day I get to wake up is a blessing, because it's a blessing that somebody was denied, and so with that, I always had the plan. I was going to be in corporate. I was going to have this cushy executive job, the fancy corner office, and I didn't have the fancy office, but I got the position before the age of 30, actually right before my 30th birthday. And I felt on top of the world, like, yes, I'm a COO. I got all these things happening. I'm going to conquer the world. And then I found I was pregnant. And I'm like, okay, this is new. My husband, he really was the one that was really embracing parenthood. I was still stuck, and I had this checklist, and a checklist before I would even agree to marry him. So I've always felt I could list my life out and like strike them off, and that's always I've kind of just worked my life. But when motherhood came, that was a complete shock to my system. But I still naively thought, okay, I can still do everything. I can do this all because I'm Wonder Woman, right? And so what happened was, again, everything I felt under control. The pregnancy was going okay. I didn't really care for it because I was due in August. It was rather hot. Oof. But when I remember going in, he was late for birth, of course. He's like his mother. And they said, we can't find his heartbeat. And my whole world just shattered and stopped. I was like, what are you talking about? You couldn't find his heartbeat. And they're like, we can't find it. I'm like, I can feel him moving. Like, well, that's water. And so they rushed me to the hospital by ambulance, where by the grace of God, he survived the birth, but he actually flatlined twice. They had him on monitors and his heart rate stopped again. And I just remember all these doctors rushing at me, and nurses, they rushed me. My husband couldn't even come in with me. And I just remember holding on. I'm like, no, don't let them take me. Not knowing what's going to happen at the end of it. All I remember is a blue curtain going over my head and nothing else. So I have no recollection really of my son's birth. Very minimal recollection, even holding him for the first time. So I'm still really medicated from that. And so as I'm seeing this beautiful being, like, okay, this is really my new life. And like, what am I going to do here? I felt really powerless. Well, then 2 weeks later, I was told I had to return back to work full time. I did all this work, nesting, making sure everything would go fine and operate without me. And I was literally told if I don't return back to work within that month, I would no longer have a job. Oh and I felt completely powerless. I had a beautiful baby. I'm like, okay, I'm responsible for this life, and I have to help take care of it because I'm prideful. I am a whole type A when it comes to that. I have to be able to also contribute with it. And I want to put that financially on him. But at the same time, I'm like, I'm a mom now. Like, what about that time I'm supposed to have to learn how to be a mom, bond with my baby? And I just cried. I felt so powerless. And that's really when awakened this in me, that something had to change. I didn't know what yet, but I just knew something had to change. And so I went back to work exactly 1 month to the day. I had my son. I still had stitches in from the emergency C-section. Remember just sitting there crying. I was still able to work remotely, so I was happy about that aspect, but you're focusing on the work. So my mom's sitting there holding my baby boy, having these precious moments and seeing, him being able to cuddle and have the nap time together. And I'm sitting there with a laptop. And I just remember saying, enough of this. I realized that life was controlling me. I no longer had the pen. And I was determined to get that back. I was determined to put myself in a driver's seat and said, if I'm going to be a part of this story, then I better be the one writing it. And so that's when I decided I really wanted to evolve into really pushing more of the marketing, more of the branding through Instagram, because then COVID happened. And I was like, okay, now what am I going to do? Everything shut down. I met so many amazing women through Instagram, a beautiful app to realize I was not alone. But I still didn't move. I worked for free for a year. Still didn't act. I just wanted to save people to make sure, they could have their income and they could be able to pay for their babies. But through that, I learned I still had to be able to take control of my life. I had to know if I'm going to write this story, live this story in and out versus I was going to drive it versus it driving me. And so it has not been easy because I'm still up work full time. I do aspire to be into a full-time entrepreneur, but it's been tough finding that balance because really, we have these balls of life. And I love this book called The One Thing. And it talks about these balls of life. We have glass balls and we have rubber balls. Work is that rubber ball. Everything else, your relationships, your health, all these things are glass. And if you drop them, they break. And I was prioritizing the wrong ball.
What is the name of that book?
What'd you say?
What's the name of that book?
The One Thing. Love this book, and it has helped me be able to start prioritizing what really matters. Because yes, we want to build all these things. We want to make an impact. We need to make sure that we are still taking care of home, who we're trying to do this for. And so really that has been the greatest trial I have faced, is finding that balance between trying to build and also trying to be present, but I'm choosing my family, I'm choosing myself, I'm choosing my health more and more now, standing for that, which is why my company is called mommeetslife. It is a living autobiography. You're getting to see my story, weaving in the mistakes I make, the messiness, but how else I'm getting up through it, and so I've learned that I can do everything, but I may not be able to do it all at once. And being okay with that and being okay with the aspect that I'm going to do it my way as me, and people are not going to be happy with that, more than likely. And knowing that I'm prioritizing my peace so I can be present for those who I'm building for and who I serve.
You have said so much in just a short period of time that so many people struggle with, is the ability to say no, the ability to really stand up and take care of themselves first, to put their family first, to prioritize the right things, you know, and I mean, that's just profound lesson in its own, you know. And how's your son? Everything is good with your son? And
woo, you mean that's how
what did they figure?
Next week, and he's a 3-nager, these terrible 2s. I'm gonna need y'all to pray for me and some cheat codes for level 3. He is a dynamic duo. I call him my Tasmanian toddler because he has a persistence and a will and a strength and a limitless energy tank that just won't quit. But he's healthy. He's great. I'm grateful for him. And again, I call him my pint-sized purpose, because every time I look into those big brown eyes, I know I'm fighting for him.
And he's adorable.
Thank you.
He's so cute. Well, getting back to what you had just said that was really profound about choosing you, choosing your life, choosing things. You're right. It's not going to always make everybody happy. There's going to be those things. So moving on to my next question, what is an insult that you have received that you're the most proud of?
The biggest insult that I have gotten, this is a repeated insult I have gotten, is that I can be too aggressive. And I had learned, you know, I am a Black woman who has been in corporate. You know, I've dealt with a lot of microaggressions. I've dealt with things where felt I had to be 10 times better than the next person to prove that I belonged in the room. I've had to put my seat down in my folding chair, as Shirley Chisholm would say, you know, and make my own seat at the table. But I welcomed it because it made me more aware of perception, you know, and personal branding is that perception. You have one whether you realize it or not, but it's also whether you're in control of that, perception. Of course, that's why a lot of us didn't have PR reps, because we're trying to control that perception on a larger scale. And, you know, to a degree, you really can never control it fully, because everyone's going to still have their own opinion, but it's making sure that you're doing things repeatedly that is in control of that, what you want people to take away from who you are. And so it really made me very self-aware. You know, I'm someone who, I suffered bullying growing up a lot, because I did grow up in a racist town. And so there was a lot of self-esteem that came with that. I dealt with a lot of colorism, where that's something that a lot of Black women or Black men deal with intrinsically based upon their shades of color. And that kind of dates back to slavery, where they said if you were darker than a paper bag, you were in the field. And that was really deemed as ugly. So it made me start becoming aware of my behavior, how I treated people, and also how I saw myself. And so that's really honestly the greatest compliment, because sometimes my aggression is my passion coming out, but I'm always making sure I'm still respectful, but I also realize it's not always a reflection of me. Sometimes it's a reflection of someone else's unconscious bias. So being able to have a spirit of discernment of when that is really what something I think really has helped me, especially with personal branding.
And everything that you just said, you know, again, anybody who's watching this, you need to have a Crissee in your life, because there's just little nuggets of what she says that not only is it just your personal story, but it's your approach towards life. It's your approach towards being a woman of color, being a woman who's faced adversity. But there's all these little things that I know people strive and women strive to be able to do. You've had to sort that out, you know, and you've been able to do that. And, you know, they have that little meme that goes around that says, I'm not bossy, I just have leadership skills or something.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I feel. But
Yes.
I honestly believe that people, there is this level of respect, but there's also a level of appreciation that when you are honest with people and you confront it and you say it in a respectful way, it's appreciated, or at least
it really is.
Hey, I'm from Philly, you're from Pittsburgh. Kind of are just naturally aggressive people, you know. Right. We're just, and not that we're like aggressive. It's just
we're direct. We're forward. There's direct. No bluff.
We are direct, and we will call it out, you know. And some people can value that, and some people just cannot value that. So that gets me to my next question now. What do you think is the most misunderstood thing about you?
There's quite a few. Personally or professionally. They kind of become one and the same now. I would say the most misunderstood thing about me, I would say, is my sense of care and really that worth with it. I think a lot of times when women talk about particularly money, I am very unapologetic in that I am going to be a minimum of a millionaire, but I'm striving for that B word, the billionaire. I'm going for Oprah level. And I have no qualms saying that. My baby's going to be a trust fund baby. I'm going to be the first in my family. Well, my parents started the generational wealth that, they've started putting assets away, but I'm going to keep that going and I'm going to multiply it. And so I get called intimidating quite a bit because I do have a strong resume. I have an MBA. I'm a COO before the age of 30. I've, been published in global magazines. Now I'm going to be an author. And I'm doing these things for a purpose. I always do things with intention. And it's not for that attention aspect. It's because there is a certain impact I'm trying to make. There's a certain example I want to show. I'm also an older sister. My sister's almost a decade younger than me. I want to show her especially it's possible. My parents invested in me. They cashed in every asset they had to make sure I could go to college because I was the first. And I'll be damned if they don't get an ROI on that one. Mm-hmm. And so for me, it's the aspect of my ambition a lot of time is misunderstood, or how I prioritize certain things, because I do want certain goals. I don't have so much time on earth to do it, and so sometimes I realize a lot of times my husband, they would have friends and like their girlfriends or their wives are just kind of like, she's nice, but they don't want to talk to me. So it's been lonely, but I'm okay with that. 4 quarters over, 100 pennies for me. I don't need a lot of people around me. I just need to make sure I'm sure of those who I do. Listening right now, I completely understand what it feels like to be misunderstood, to be ignored, to feel you're being dismissed, but trust and believe those who turn their nose or criticize you today will be the ones that will be the first to say they know you, particularly on social media to their friends, when you make it, because you will make it. And they will want that access to you. So keep going, but understand who you're doing it for. And it's no one else's dream or vision to understand. It's yours.
Absolutely. And I think I need to have you come back, because one of the topics that I want to talk about, one of the podcasts I want to do, is that there's no shame in being successful.
Amen.
And I don't know, because I've had to explain, not really explain, but you have to almost validate, well, this is how it happened. No,
yes.
I worked hard, I mean, you run into the wall a lot, but then you have opportunities like where, it leads you down the path that you need to go. There was something I just shared on Facebook a couple of days ago, and it said, for all the doors, what was it? Something like, for all the doors
that close to me, I'm coming back to
buy the building. That's yes, right. We're coming back to buy the building. So, but no, I think it's true. I think that, it's as women, it's almost like there's, this unspoken validation that we feel that we need to have from people. And you can imagine the people in my space, who saw me produce a movie, saw a best-selling book I did, saw the things that I did, and were like, hi. Yep. And I'm like, really? Now you want to talk to me now? Because but anyway, I digress. This could be a 5-hour long podcast if we went down those roads.
Right. And, that really stems from, women were constantly positioned as possessions for one, but then also positioned against one another. I mean, these beauty pageants you see, they got to get on a stage, often wearing these tiny bikinis and things such as that, and prove they have the best answer. I mean, and so you have the modeling, the swimsuit things, where there's even standards in modeling where if you're not 5'7", you can't be America's Top Model. You can be a swimsuit model because you're too short, and things such as that, So you go in the grocery aisle. I dare you to take a look at the magazines next door, and you're going to see how to lose 20 pounds in 30 minutes, how to reverse the signs of aging. I'm like, the reward is the fact we get to live, we get to be here, human, we get to be different.
Yep, exactly.
But, and unfortunately, it's something that's continued to be passed down, and we as women, we've got to stop that as well. The spirit of collaboration happens when we can leave the spirit of competition and comparison at the door.
Drop the mic. Just we're gonna just be done with the podcast like right now. You know, one thing I've learned from TikTok, I can honestly, I think it was TikTok that my granddaughter finally convinced me to get on, was I start seeing all these runway things, and I'm not exposed to them in the magazines and the stores, nothing, where they're women that look like me, you know, curvy queens. Now, granted, they're not any up there that are 5'2", but you know, there are ones that are up there that are still the right model.
Yes.
Shape. But now you're seeing these women that, you know, are plus size, and us curvy queens are starting to get some recognition. That
representation matters.
A long time. We went to Italy, and I loved being in Italy because, like, you'd look around and there was like, oh, look, there's this little chubby little model over there, you know, and there's another little chubby sculpture, and I'm like, oh, I think I'm gonna live in Italy.
Right. I mean, I remember when I saw Naomi Campbell for the first time, because she was dark skinned. Everyone like, I love Tyra, but like I wanted to see someone. Now we have like women like Lupita, and so I'm like, okay, great. Granted, you know, they are skinny, they have these perfect bodies, and then I'm like, okay, well, pregnancy was not fun to me. I have cellulite and stretch marks, and now this beautiful C-section scar. So I'm like, you know, can someone show that too?
Yeah. And they have done that more and more.
Yes.
And I know that there's this dynamic where, you know, Instagram, I think it is being really kind of thrown under the bus for issues with eating disorders and things like that. But I can just tell you, as a plus size woman who has been one her entire life, it's good to see representation. Now, granted, I wouldn't be out there like in a bikini and strutting my stuff, because I've had 3 kids and a whole bunch of stuff that, you know, but I digress. I mean, you can put me out there in a muumuu and I'll
girl, you can do it. You can own it. Oh, yeah.
But it's just nice to see that representation. It really is, to see, you know, but anyway, I don't even know how we started talking about all this, but I mean, we could just keep going on here. But anyway, pulling back into the podcast part of it, what is the biggest challenge in your life that you, as a woman, as a mom, as an entrepreneur, you know, what is it that you're facing, and what are you doing to tackle it? Who are you, you know, syncing yourself up with? What are you reading? Like, tell me a little bit about that.
The biggest thing for me, you know, I don't have any personal, I guess you could say, examples of wealth. You know, my family, they've done amazing for themselves. I'm the first of my family to graduate the collegiate degree and was able to get a graduate degree. So and that was possible because of them. You know, they instilled that into us. And again, they invested in me so I could be able to continue to invest back in us and a family. But I always, you know, read that if you hang out with 6 millionaires, you become the 7th. And so I started seeing these women continuously grind and fight and be able to, I'm seeing numbers that I didn't know was possible for me, you know. So I don't view people as competition. I view them as proof of concept. And then I want to be your friend, because I want to know, how can I, you know, replicate that in my business? May not be the exact same way, but you have the blueprint, you know, which is why I made my very first investment in a coach. It was the scariest investment I made in my life. So I never made an investment that much until I thought, wait a minute, I signed away hundreds of thousands of dollars for college. What's the difference? I do it for a car, you know? And so for me, it's continuing to get my name out there, because again, I do go the road less traveled. You know, I'm about helping people find their purpose, being able to turn that into a passionate profit and put profit behind their presence for them. I am for women with intention and not so much the attention aspect of it, you know, but every day I show up as one step closer, but it's also, again, fighting for that balance. I'm a person, I have like one foot in social, one foot out. I too had to be convinced to get on TikTok. I mean, I know social media for a living. I'm like, do I really have to though? I mean, because I'm already over here, and, you know, but we have to evolve. So I understand that, especially as a marketer, but I want to still be present in those moments. I get so frustrated sometimes. Everything now is content, and I feel like we're all being kind of forced to be videographers with that, which is why I lean into more of the media, the guest blogging, the podcast, the publications, because it gives me ability to diversify my presence without feeling like I showed up on Instagram today, or I showed up on TikTok that wants to do 10 videos a day to grow. No, I want to be present. You know, my husband, God bless him, he spent so many years of the beginning of our marriage staring at the back of my laptop. But he believed me. He's like, I understand what you're trying to do. I have faith in you. You know, had to give up my maternity leave for this, but I'm not willing to give up any more time, because I'll never be able to get that back. So now I have to find that, and I'm still recovering perfectionist, and I'm still working for that balance. Every day I have to do it. Not every day I get it right, but I'm grateful for his grace in that. and also the support of my loved ones and amazing women like you. You know, I've gotten to meet so many amazing women out there, and I've never met them in person, and are rooting for me and saying, Chris, how can I help you? I believe in your purpose. How can I help? And that's just to know now I'm not alone in that is so warming and comforting. And so I know I'm going to make it, because I am now aligning myself with women who are exactly where I want to be, or have walked that path to say, it's not as bad as you think, Chris, you know, or you need to adjust with this, you know, because it is not hard to find that balance, to be a wife, a mom, a daughter, a sister, you know, and still working even full time for that matter, you know, so I have to choose my priorities each day.
Well, and I think it's so important to surround yourself with the people that are either going to, you know, show you the way, walk beside you, you know, continue to encourage you. I mean, life isn't about a competition. And my former best friend, part of the reason why she's my former, is she used to, if she saw somebody who, like a woman who seemed to have her stuff together, who was beautiful and living the life that she wanted, there was something wrong with that person.
Mm-hmm.
Always immediately start to pick apart what that person was. You know, her eyes weren't the right color. Her eyebrows were done wrong. She was wearing the wrong shoes. She was I'm just looking at it like, you're jealous. You're not, this person is just living her life and she hasn't done anything to you and you're just jealous.
Exactly.
So it's again about surrounding yourself with the people who are going to adjust your crown when it's crooked, who are going to pull you aside when your skirt's tucked into your pantyhose in the back. Like,
I've been that person.
Those are the people you need to have in your life, you know, because they are going to, and they're going to cheer you on. You know, I mean, I try to be that for my clients. I try to be that for my friends, my kids. I'm the one that's always going to be in your corner, just cheering you on. We're not competition. You know, we're here, we're friends with each other. What is the one thing that you hope that people take away from our conversation today?
You do not have to conform to anyone's standards or expectations to be validated. If anything, I have spent 90% of my 35 years on this earth forever trying to be perfect for someone else's validation. And I'm personally done with that. Again, it's going to piss people off, and that's okay, because you have to be able to have that peace of mind, because without the brain, nothing else works. Everything falls apart. Your health, your relationships, your goals, your ambitions, your trajectory. You know, people that you surround yourself with have the ability to propel you forward or paralyze you and hold you still. I'm telling you, people around you are not rooting for you, clapping for you, mentioning your name in rooms that you're not in. You have a prison, not a circle. You know, and I had to do a big life delete for that. I realized that. And some people were saying near and dear to me, I knew for years, I never thought would depart, but realized I was no longer valuing myself, you know, and that's the problem. We put a lot of times our value to a certain money milestone, and that's not the case. For some people, they don't need $1 million. Happiness is not tied also to just revenue either. It's got to be from within. So if anything, understand your worth. Your worth is priceless. You know, I always say queen for a reason. I'm helping people take reign back over their life, that control and understanding you are royalty. I'm a woman of faith, so I say I'm a child of king. I'm royalty. But I picked a crown for a reason, because if you put your head down, your crown's going to fall off your head. I am teaching women to stand up tall and look forward. Put your head up. When you have an accomplishment, smile and say, yes, I did. And don't have to explain nothing else. I did it.
There's no shame in success. We're going to do a podcast.
Your success. You're not on trial. You have nothing to defend. You owned it. You did it. That is the proof of your work. That is the defense right there.
Well, we're ready to wrap up, but I could talk to you for days. Anyway, how can people connect with you?
They can connect with me through my website, www.mommeetslife.com, or you also can find me. I'm predominant on Instagram at I am Christina Sims. I spell Christina with a CHR. Please make sure to say hello. I'm usually posting there about my food. I love you on my grill, or you will see some of my glimmers of my Wonder Woman stories too as well. But I enjoy hearing I empower imperfect stories, because we all are imperfect creatures trying to make sense of this world. So I love to hear everyone else's story and how they're just trying to make it, and how I can help get their word out there.
Well, I always love talking to you. Again, like I said, I could talk to you for hours. And I know you're going to be coming back on a podcast because I really do think we need to talk about that there's no shame in being successful as a woman. There really isn't. There's no need for validation. There's no need for anything else. But I'm going to wrap up for now. And Crissee, thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on. And I'm just telling you, for those who are listening, just a little bit of energy you got from her in the little bit of time that we spent. I'm just telling you, she will infuse herself in your business, in your brand, in your story. And I highly recommend that you connect with her. So until we come back again with another episode of Conversations That Connect Us, we're going to say goodbye for now. Bye, Crissee.
Bye. Thank you.